There are a lot of this kind of Buddhists, especially in Europe and the West. They should be grilled, minced, chopped, fried, barbecued. They destroy the Buddha Dhamma more than any other negative have had. I mean it. I might look a little silly here when I'm talking, and so you may not take it. You may not take it seriously, but I mean this one. So, with these 4 definitions I have presented, not I, Tengpo Tersin Sherpa says so brilliantly, a terton, by the way, a treasurer. Tertons are important. I think Mozart is a terton. Mozart, right? Mozart. Wolfgang Mozart is a terton, I think. 5 years old?
3 years.
He composed something, 5 years old? He composed a sonata, is it sonata? 5 years old. I'm just giving you an example of how to understand, like just special people who thinks specially out of nowhere without any pre-arrangement. Okay, anyway, so if you look at these four categories that I just told you, you then realize relative truths are deceptive. Okay, consensus? Just because majority of the people believe that that is it, does not mean that it's true.
那第一并不是见得它就是真理。
Remember that villager somewhere in Nepal outside who has never seen espresso machine? For him, the espresso machine that we agreed is nothing.
记得
Anyway, to the certain extent, President Trump is elected, isn't it? To the certain extent. The second one is cause and condition. Oh my goodness, that is even more so. Because if something is dependent on cause and condition, then you can never trust because it's dependent. Like a weather, anything can happen. Just movement of cause and conditions, the situation can change. Actually, the second one is Dwenje Nuba, which is what? Reusable, like function. Function, Dwenje Nuba. Dwenje Nuba. It's something that has a function. And I've told you that, like the table, the chair, this could have been a table for me. It could have been. So, again, you cannot really say it is a truly table. You cannot. Okay? And the fourth one, if you analyze, if I analyze this table one by one, nails, whatever, painting, whatever, the whole notion, the idea of table collapses. By now, I know what has happened to some of you people. By now, some of you may be looking at relative truth as a used tissue. Oh, deceptive, the bad one. We want ultimate truth. If you have that, this is a practitioner's disgrace. Remember, I already told you the philosopher's disgrace. This is a practitioner's disgrace. You cannot forsake relative truth. You cannot. Impossible. You should not. So, flowers are important, incense are important, going to bow the nut and going to circumambulate, all this bell ringing, all this is important. So-called path, Buddha Dharma, is relative truth. If you get rid of relative truth, Buddha Dharma also is gone within that package. It's really important to know. Now, this should now give you an idea of what is ultimate truth. Ultimate truth is definitely not what we have just told you. This is the only, this is best way to understand the ultimate truth.
This-
Who has never tasted a salt? You cannot tell him this salt tastes like this. You cannot. You have to give them sugar and tell them, this is not it. Chili and say, this is not salt. Keep on saying, this is no, that. That's why there's no, no's, no, is, no, this, no, that. Now it's coming to the, Heart Sutras, no, the word no. I know some of you Buddhist fanatics are going to not like this, but I have to quote Rajneesh. Definitely he's a closet Buddhist, I think.
我就觉得他
He said, Buddhist no is a very special no. In the Buddhist no, he said there's 100,000 yes. So, now, going to the Heart Sutra text again.
啊，现在在
So, Avalokiteshvara said, Zuktongpavo form is emptiness. All that four sort of aspects of shunyata that we talked yesterday. I'm going to talk a little bit about that again.
是在
Just keep remembering our challenge. Our challenge is not knowing how to sungjuk, how do you say sungjuk? Union? Sungjuk, nangtong sungjuk. Union. But the biggest challenge is not being able to understand the union of form and emptiness. When we see something present, we forget its emptiness.
当我
When we experience something void, we forget the vividness or the form. Basically, not being able to make a harmonious marriage between the appearance and the emptiness this is the biggest challenge. I told you already, the only rare occasions Nangtong Sungjuk kind of we have is when we look at the mirror, probably. Or a mother playing with a kid, building a sand castle.
或者
Mother knows this is not real castle, but still, pretends or what, kind of go through all the building procedure. Okay, bottom line you need to know is when Avalokiteshvara said there is no eyes, immediately you have to know, you have to remember emptiness is eyes. Understand? Form is emptiness, emptiness is form. Immediately. So, form is emptiness. When we say that, we are not negating the form. Because immediately after that, we have emptiness is form.
Yeah.
And the emptiness and the form are not a two separate entity. This is what is emphasized by the two next line, like emptiness is not other than the form, and the form is not other than the emptiness.
So,
Today I'm going to let you ask questions very soon, so especially regarding this, but a little bit more here. And this, by the way, is also exactly the same thing with the the dependent arising. There's something so special here. For the ordinary people, to prove something truly exists, we usually prove it with its genesis, Jewa, Genesis, the evolution, Genesis,
那对
birth date, you exist because in your passport, you were born on this and that. You understand? Sort of, and then father's name, mother's name, to prove that you exist. That's one proof, isn't it? Your proof of existence is your birthday and your parents and the birthplace, I guess. Another proof of existence is dwelling at the moment, addresses, billing address. And also, funny enough, proof of existence of somebody could be also the death, the expiry date. So and so Shakespeare, Mr. Shakespeare lived from 19 this to this. So ordinary people like you and me, when we hear these proof, we then develop, he or she exists. It actually becomes a validation. But the same reason, if you talk to Nagarjuna, all these reasons are proof that it's not born. If something is caused and conditioned, it proves that things are not truly arisen or being born. This is a part that it's slightly, you need a little bit of thinking, this one. But it makes sense. Oh, by the way, you need to remember, relative truth, just because it's deceptive does not mean it's chaotic. Not at all. Next 100 days, if you look at the mirror, your face is going to appear in the mirror, not a baboon. This will not make that face in the mirror more truer. You understand? After 1,000 years, you look at the mirror, your face is back again. So for the Nagarjuna and these guys, in their mind, when cause and conditions are gathered, there is an appearance of the birth of this, the death of that, dwelling of this, so on and so forth. This is how these guys look at things. Okay? So now, remember going back to the question, Shariputra was very puzzled what Avalokiteshvara is doing. Avalokiteshvara is looking at things in this way. Everything he is thinking in this way. Just quickly, so this same applies to the rest of the aggregates, 12 ayatanas and 18 dhatus. Yes, please remind me to talk about compassion, because compassion is so much associated with this.
While you were talking about relative truths, it's philosophers' disgrace that if they use the analytical tools to analyze relative truths, like the table is a table.
Yes, not all you can analyze whether this table is good for your living room or not. That's a relative analysis. But the moment you analyze it, where is table? Is this really table? Then you are using the analysis that is aimed towards the ultimate. That you can't do.
But how do table is a physical construct. If we don't start analyzing, let's say, instead of physical table, what about social constructs?
Everything. They are even more illusory. What kind of social construct?
So, for example, women being able to vote or being able to represent. If we don't question those kind of what you say relative truths, then we'll
I have never told you not to use a table. I have never told you not to vote. I have told you that you can do all of that, remember? But just know that you are playing with a kid and building a sandcastles. Or you are watching a movie. What is the benefit of watching a movie? When you are watching, you get engaged, you are really following the story, but if your bladder is full, just pause it. You have so much confidence. Pause it and go to the toilet. You come back and play, or rewind. That's the confidence you need to get to rewind this movie, you understand, so to speak?
So you are suggesting that we should question the relative truths up to a point that we're comfortable?
We should question that whatever we see is just an appearance, it's not how it is. I think, let's put it this way. Yeah. Everything what you experience that's how it appears to you, But maybe it's not, like let's say my husband looks really nice, but maybe he has a tail. That kind of thing. You understand?
Okay. All right. Thank you.
After totally understanding relative truth, and we have no further questions, is that ultimate truth?
Yes, understanding the relative truth is actually understanding the ultimate truth also.
This
This is why many people will say, for instance, the texts such as Madhyamika Avatara by Chandrakirti is actually a text to study relative truth. Knowing the scarecrow, finding this or discovering that it is a scarecrow and discovering that it is not a human comes simultaneously. Comes simultaneously, right?
The absolute view still needs a process to understand.
Can you repeat that again?
The ultimate truth, the ultimate view, we still need a process to realize it. Is it?
After the understanding of the relative truth, no.
So the ultimate wisdom, is it innate or is it involve a process to obtain?
Very good question. Yes.
这是个好问题。
I just have to say Longchenpa.
那么一定
In one of his writings, it's like this. Where is samsara? What do you mean by samsara? What is nirvana? Something like that, he says. Nirvana, what do you mean by nirvana? I don't see anything imperfect.
我没有
So beautiful. Kuntu Zangbo. All the time good. Right? Kuntu Zangbo. How do you translate that? No matter how many 3 years retreat you do from now on, your innate nature is not going to become better. No matter how many lifetimes you will roam in the samsara and roll around in the shit, your Buddha nature is not going to become lesser. It's in the Heart Sutra. Wait, let me find it. Where is it? Yes, 대신 등하고도 끈중고도 고보다 남매 예심에 터밤에 마터바야 매도 두함에 강함에 no increasing, no decreasing, no getting, not losing. If we talk about that level, yes, that's how it is. Your question is correct. Remember Shantadeva, for the time being, you must have one ignorance to think that there is an enlightenment. And you might quickly ask me a question, why? Why should I have that ignorance? Shantadeva said, because you are suffering. Even though ultimately there is no suffering. Again, the Heart Sutra says, but you think you are suffering. Okay.
How? You talk about the relationship between the enlightenment and openness. What is the difference between stubborn and openness? And second question is...
stubborn openness is obvious. Okay, anyway, tell me.
I forgot the second question. For certain things, one person may care a lot, the other person may totally careless, couldn't care less. So this couldn't carelessness is openness?
I don't know, which level are you talking about? Carelessness can be very irresponsible. Loving freedom and loving to be irresponsible are very, very close. Yeah, modern people loves freedom. I'm hearing They love irresponsibility. If you're talking about a Mahasandhi, the great Mahasiddha level of couldn't carelessness, oh, that's different. That's a compassion.
You expound a little more. The suffering is bliss, or
Oh, not
samsara
the
is
time
bliss,
yet.
and
Go to the, tantric teachings. There they will teach you this. I'm a Mahayanist here.
His question is, Nagarjuna has wrote 2 books. One is Tamatatu something, and the other is Madhyamika Mula. And some people said the emptiness he expounded in the first book is more supreme than the second one.
They can say whatever they want to say until their lips are worn out.
他们继续讲没关系。
Rinpoche, as far as I understand it, it's because emptiness is form that we can, when we're taking refuge, for example, see the Buddha in front of us and he is actually there, is what we're told. So what is the difference between what we are seeing and visualizing as the Buddha actually there versus these guys who prayed and prayed like a Sangha for 12 years for Maitreya to appear in front of him? What is the difference? What level of emptiness as form was he praying for? Because, I mean, he could have just visualized Maitreya.
What is the difference between how we see?
When we look and say, oh, Buddha is in front of us, and we're visualizing, and we're expected to believe, okay, he is actually there.
Right.
But a Sangha spent 12 years praying that Maitreya would appear in front of him. I mean, I'm sure he could have visualized Maitreya.
Oh, yeah.
So what is the difference? What was he praying for? What form, what level of emptiness as form was he praying to see Maitreya in?
Yeah, that Asanga story, there's so many stories like that these Mahayana people use.
Is that just a children's tale?
Well, it's supposedly to inspire people to be diligent. Asanga is not that of an idiot, but, such stories is necessary.
So I should be aspiring, when I'm looking at Buddha, and believing he's actually there, what should I be aspiring for if I'm trying to take a Sangha's example?
It's, by the way, the Asanga story has a meaning though, like, right now it'd be so difficult for you to really, really, really believe and buy if I say, here, this is the Buddha, see? It's very, very difficult. You would try to sort of, with a lot of salt, you can sort of swallow it probably, but then you will end up again going back to the Buddha with a certain character. But, as you practice and practice, one day you will not be hijacked by the distinctions of golden color or four-prong shiny stuff. And then, the gap between the folk and the Shakyamuni Buddha or whatever the Buddha is supposedly look like will become closer. So till then, I think it is always safe to look at someone who, looks like a deity, like a Manjushri. Tibetans, we pray to Manjushri, who's always with a knife like this. And if you tell any of these Tibetans, so maybe Manjushri's knife can be sometimes like this, they will say, no. Yeah, they will. If I ever make a statue, if I go to Kathmandu statue makers and ask them, okay, I want a Manjushri statues that's like this, like Manjushri swords coming like this. They will say, really? Manjushri doesn't look like that. What they don't know is Manjushri is not like a retarded, whole day, whole night, 24 hours. You can't, they don't know that. Anyway, let's go to the toilet. My bladder is totally full.